What is up, guys? Pastor John here with you today for part 4 of my testimony video. I got my mic nice and close today because I've kind of noticed that you can't hear me very well. My voice is not very good, and that's coming later this week in my testimony video. But we'll continue off where we were in the last video, and that was me having a porn binge in the basement and experiencing some sort of evil presence inside of my mind that made me want to off myself.
Get out of my head!
So that experience really woke me up, and it's not like I stopped looking at porn right after that. I mean, I was pretty hooked, so that was still a part of my life. I think what really made me change after that moment was I believed in the spiritual realm. It wasn't just like this made up thing anymore. It was real. That's how crazy that night was. And I tell people today, I'm a pastor and I believe in God because I had an experience with evil. Like, I believe in God because I believe in the devil, right?
And interested as I am in the devil, I never indulge.
And, that kind of still amazes me today that that's the case, but it's true, So after that night, I was, still kind of grappling with this lust, addiction, but something else happened that made things even worse. So if you remember earlier, I was in shape. I was into weightlifting, bodybuilding. My hero was Arnold Schwarzenegger, pumping iron. And that was my life in my 20s. So I was actually training, doing powerlifting training, and I was in the best shape of my life. And we lived in this apartment, my wife and I. And one morning, it was in October, and it was really cold. It was one of those October mornings where the weather is changing, starting to get colder. So I ended up grabbing my bags because I was a dietitian, and I used to cook for high school students. And I had these big coolers on my shoulders, and I went outside and took a step down the stairs and totally slipped back.
Dad, even a lion would slip on ice.
Backwards, and I hit my back on the ledge of the stair, and I herniated 2 discs in my back immediately, and I just laid there totally out of it. And if I wasn't training for powerlifting or in really good shape, I would have probably been in the hospital. But I got up, I went to work, hobbling around, and that night, like an idiot, I did a leg workout, did a bunch of squats with 2 herniated discs, and suffice it to say, I jacked my back up. So for years, I had to sit on one butt cheek, and I just had this terrible sciatic pain, and I didn't really do anything for it. Eventually, I couldn't work out. I couldn't lift. I couldn't walk. I mean, I could walk a little bit, but I couldn't sit. Every time I sit, I'd be like this. So it was bad. So my identity with weightlifting, working out was completely gone. I just turned into this skinny little turd dude, and I have issues still to this day from that injury. My back is still tight. I go to PT once a week for it. I've been going to PT for 5 straight years, and I'm 34, almost 35. So this happened 10 years ago. So don't slip on stairs.
Yeah, no shit, Sherlock.
Yeah. Every time I watch Fail Army and people fall, I get a pain in my back. But basically that led me to being depressed. And what was I going to do now that I couldn't lift? Well, I replaced lifting with intellectualism because I was, always kind of like an intellectual, but I went like overboard. I was like reading huge books, writing blogs. Like that was my thing. And that I kind of mentioned that in previous testimonies. So these things, like I'm telling you, they're interweaved in these testimony videos, but that's one of the main reasons that got me into the whole world of reading and writing was that injury. So that was in my mid 20s, and I'm doing this. And so the intellectualism's working, right? Like that's filled my identity. But I have this spiritual encounter in the basement. I'm struggling with the back. And then another shift happens, which might have been the worst of all. And that shift was really subtle. But it was me realizing that intellectualism was really hollow. Like I was a big fan of Plato and Aristotle, but then I started to read like later philosophers, like guys like Kant and Nietzsche, and I realized like none of these guys agree with each other.
Just because I don't agree with communism as an ideology.
I mean, they'll like reference each other, but really they're trying to just flex their own muscles. It's like a dick measuring contest, like who's smarter, who's better. There's like a conflict of interest, to be original, but it's like you're just being original for the sake of being original. It's not really always to help other people. And I started to see that. And then in like the culture, man, like and you'll remember the culture, like 2016, the election that year, and there was like a lot of changes with like the far left with cancel culture. Like I was in this book club at the library with my man bun, just freaking stupid. Back then I was in this book club and we were trying to read all these classics, and these feminist librarians, I mean they were cool, but they're like, I was like, oh, why don't we read like, Moby Dick? And one of the girls is like, why would we read a book written by an old white guy? And I was like, well, why does it matter if he's white? Like I honestly, that was the first time I had encountered cancel culture, and it started to like grind on me. Like I hate cancel culture. Like I want to be able to say what I want to say. And I don't care if you're white or black or a dude or a chick. Like, it's more the content that I care about. But that like started to be pervasive. I remember I wrote this blog about fathers, like for Father's Day, like how important fathers were. And I got these texts from my like friends at the time, and they're like, you should delete that blog post because it's offensive to gay fathers and lesbian mothers.
So I have until then to figure out how to delete it, because if this person sees this email, it'll be horrible.
Because you didn't reference the LGBTQ plus community. And I was like, what the frick? I didn't want to write about that. Like my point wasn't really about that, but it was like because I didn't bring it up, I was like homophobic or something. And honestly I deleted my blog entirely because I bowed to that pressure, because I was like, I can't please everybody, I'm gonna stop writing. And that was a big mistake. So that was 2016, 2017. The world was weird back then. I think like we're exposed to like DEI crap nowadays, but back then it was like all fresh and like everybody was like walking on eggshells. So between that and then all of my philosophers and academics disagreeing with each other, I realized like my, intellectualism was crumbling. So, my porn addiction was crumbling because I was scared to, look at it, even though I still was a little bit. And my body was crumbling. My brain, with like what I was reading, there was no foundation to truth anymore. It was just like whatever you want to be true is true. And I was like, that's not right. There has to be objective truth. Like I know there is. So all these things really like came to a head in my late 20s. And I think that's where I'll leave off this testimony, and we'll kind of transition into how I really started to follow Jesus in the next testimony videos. So thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. Like, share, subscribe. I forgot to say that in my last videos, but if you can comment or send this to another guy that might benefit, it would help the channel out. So thank you. God bless, and have a good one, guys. Bye.